Hello, and welcome to today's ServiceNow Express overview video covering the System Configuration page. Through the System Configuration page, you can edit a lot of the core logic and configurations deciding how your platform acts. Head there by going to the System Configuration module through the Application Navigator. There you'll find a number of tabs laid out which have relevant properties within them. The first and most common tab accessed is the Branding tab. Here, you can define how your instance is branded, what the page header caption should be, the browser tab title, as well as some core configuration colors. You also have the ability to change other branding colors by clicking the link and selecting from Header, Navigator, and Tabs and Borders options. We highly recommend that you upload your own custom logo as well as brand the instance in line with your corporate branding requirements. The next tab is Time and Language. Here you can set up the system time zone for the system. This will become the default for all users as well. If your given time zone is not shown in the default drop-down list, press the Configure Available Time Zones link and add any missing time zone. You can then select the date format to be used in the instance, as well as the time format. Next, you can define the default system language, and if desired, enable additional languages on your instance. These languages include Brazilian Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, Dutch, German, Japanese, and French. Finally, you can also define the default currency used throughout the system. This is done by setting the following three properties. For the execs on the specifics of language code and country code syntax, please see the ServiceNow documentation. The next piece of configuration is around inbound email. Here, you can access properties such as preventing inbound email completely from being enabled in the instance, commonly done on your non-production. You also have the option to pick exactly what the prefixes are the system uses to identify a reply, the prefixes used to identify a forward, and everything else will be considered a new. Keep in mind that this correlates to the forward, reply, and new inbound email action types in the system. There's also an option to discard everything below this text if found in a reply body. If you have a standardized email footer from your employees, it's very common to place this in this comma-separated list so that any text beyond that footer is removed. In addition, you have the ability to define what emails are automatically ignored by ServiceNow. In some cases, you may do an email integration where the other system has a header such as auto-submitted set to auto-replied. If that's the case, make sure to remove those ignore strings. You can also ignore emails based on the text in their subject line. Finally, you can blacklist a set number of senders. Next, you have the option of automatically creating users for incoming emails from trusted domains. By leaving as a star, all domains would be trusted, but you can enter a subset of domains comma separated. Keep in mind that if you turn on this property to enable users for emails that do not have email accounts to be created as users in your system when they send mail in, they will also receive a user account with the following default password. Their user ID will be their email address. For outbound email, you have properties to disable outbound email completely, useful for non-production instances. Choose the number of journal entries to include in email notifications. This can be 1 entry to show just the latest update or 3 to provide context, as well as to define an email for testing purposes. This is again useful in a non-production if you're changing your email notifications or like to see when they send without actually sending to all users. You have the ability to change what the auto-submitted header contains in case you're doing an email integration and need to remove either the auto-generated header as part of auto-submitted or to remove the precedence bulk header. The next tab involves Connect properties. Here in the Connect properties, you can go ahead and edit really how the chat works in the system. Beginning with the larger concept of presence, the ability to see if other users are active on the same form you're active on. Here you can disable presence. You can go ahead and choose if Connect or Chat should be enabled to disable it as well. And you can define if roles should be set for who can access Connect. It's very common to enter an ITIL role to be able to use the Connect feature. The next tab involves UI properties. In the UI properties, we have the option to leave live forms such as the UI16 user presence and activity stream enabled. By disabling this, you'll take off the live forms feature. This means that the activity stream will not auto-update with updates that occur, and it'll also mean that the additional comments field and the work notes field are no longer combined. If you disable this, it will separate it into two static fields. You also have the option to set what roles can view the sent/received email activity in the activity formatter, the number of characters to display in list cells, as well as to set if the task time worked field should automatically start its timer when a record is opened, or if users should purely do manual entry. Finally, you can also define what roles can use global text search. By default, it's listed for ITIL and admin. However, you can clear it out to give end users access or enter any custom roles tied to potential custom applications you may have. The last tab is Advanced Properties. These are common properties set before going live in the system, such as what is the session timeout in your system, if you allow users to remember me or not to, if you would like to default the remember me option to true if enabled, the ability to set what the auto resolution time is after an incident is resolved to when it should go into closed if no further comments were made, as well as the ability to define the max records that you could import or export in the system. Finally, from a security perspective, you can define the maximum number of failed login attempts a user can do prior to their account being locked out for the following number of minutes defined. This has been an overview of the system configuration page of ServiceNow Express in the Istanbul release. Expect this page to continually be updated with additional properties in future releases.